Can astronumerology reveal a power couple? Stick around, let's find out. Welcome, Lloyd. Welcome. How are you?
I am fine, Miss Kimberly. I'm glad to say. And how are you?
I'm doing good. We're in February. This is Aquarius season. And I thought about something today in regards to Aquarius season. We're in February.
Hmm.
And one of the most commercialized holidays is in this month. This is the month when everybody is nice to each other. They're extra sweet to each other. And today I thought, wow, Aquarius is the humanitarian sign. So maybe that's why, this energy of love is flowing throughout this month. And then we go into Pisces, which is a water season. But what do you think about it? A lot of people make a lot of noise or pay a lot of attention to this month for that reason. What do you feel about it?
Well, that's perhaps why Valentine's Day is in this month. Okay. And this is when everybody makes nice. They take a person out to eat. They bring them a box of candy or cherries. They bring them flowers. They're really, really nice. Okay. And it is a humanitarian sign. And I like it because it's a sign that represents couples. You take them out to eat, you share and things like that. So it is definitely humanitarian in that way, but yet very sociable. So everybody waits and who you taking out and whatnot. So Valentine's Day is definitely one of those days, short of Mother's Day. I'd say for a woman, Valentine's Day and Mother's Day, those are the months that get it. Okay. Other than that, we guys, we get a little something. Maybe in June, we keep our fingers crossed. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what to tell you. We do the best we can for what we do. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, now you're making me feel sad for the men.
Y'all should. Y'all really, really should, ladies. Okay.
So, with all this big emphasis placed on relationships, I want to ask you because astronumerology has revealed a whole lot for a lot of people. It reveals what your best day is, it reveals when you should be cautious and things of that nature. But what I want to know specifically is, does astronumerology help also when it comes to relationships?
Well, I would say pretty much so. And it all depends on what generation we come out of. So if we talk about our grandparents and their parents, back in the day, as they say, well, they wasn't into what is called the 21st century the zodiac signs. They wasn't into dating apps. They wasn't into what your numbers. They weren't into what your soul numbers or things of that nature. They were just, and with each generation, it brings upon it a whole different ball game. So for back in the day, about great grandparents, for example, they married, they had to stick together. It was about survival, and it was really important about the family. Fast forward now, everybody kind of makes their own food, go into their own room, eat, watch TV, get on their phones or whatever. And what is interesting about this modern day of relationships, people have gone out, taking somebody out, and while they're having them out for dinner or whatever it is, they're on their phone while the other person is talking, which I find interesting. In my parents' days, they would have told me that would have been rude. If I took a person out and we're supposed to be out for lunch or dinner, especially the more romantic it is, and I'm on the phone looking at the phone instead of talking and engaging with the person I brought, that doesn't seem quite connecting, shall we say. Okay. It doesn't seem connecting at all. So things have changed, but yet there's still universal principles that guide us, and that helps a lot. I think what numerology and astrology done is help add more understanding to relationships, but the more it adds to it, the shorter the relationships. So for example, there's a couple out of Arkansas, bless they soul, they were married 84 years. Fast forward to 21st century, if people are together 84 days, it's a miracle. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Listen, so things have changed. Things have really changed. So in this couple that I was illustrating, they met in a church where people in the 21st century meet on a dating app. You know, it's a whole different energy. So things are kind of changing, but nonetheless, we will always be in relationships. Back in the day of our grandparents, it was about family. Now, 21st century, we don't need nobody. I don't need you. You don't need me. And then we wonder why we're the loneliest people in the world. So when you look at the holidays, and they got pictures like Thanksgiving of the family, holidays and whatnot, where there's always a family reunion, yet that person is there eating turkey by themselves at home. So things have kind of changed. But once we understand relationships, it does make life easier. But we're always in some kind of relationship nonetheless.
What stuck out to me was when you said something about the changes that has happened over the years with the generation. During my generation, one of the things that I heard, and one thing that a lot of couples aspired to, was the thought of the power couple. To me, the power couple was a couple that could come together and make things happen, whether it's in the family, whether it's in business, or no matter what they were doing, they were able to come together and do it together. And I want to know from you, do you believe that there's a such thing as a power couple? And if you do, can you describe what you think the power couple is?
The power couple to me is sticking together, not with paparazzi. So, for example, you got the paparazzi of Beyonce and Jay Z. They would be considered a power couple. But you got a couple like the white sides that I'll be talking about in my relationship class that was married for 84 days, produced 12 children, 108 grandchildren, 48 great grandchildren, 12 great great grandchildren. Those two people created 3 or 4 generations of children before them. That's a power couple. That's a power couple. Not about how much flash and glitz and glitter and how much money you got and paparazzi all over the place. That's like, it's cool, but the serious part is the legacy that those two people, when they married in 1939 on July 24th, who would have known that out of 12 children would become 108 grandchildren, and then 48 great great grandchildren, and then great great grandchildren. You know what I'm saying? That's a power couple. But people don't even want to stick together nowadays. They fall in love for half a second, then the love supposedly flame out. Then you go your way, I go my way. They have children in the days of my parents coming up, okay, and their parents. You did not get a woman pregnant and didn't jump the broom. If you got her pregnant, you was getting married. There was no question about it. Nowadays, I heard something recently on some Instagram where a woman had 7 children, one on the way, and 8 different fathers. So things have changed. Things have changed. So to me, the power couple is how you stick together, especially in challenging times. So don't think this couple that was married 84 years didn't work each other's nerves. Ain't nobody perfect. Then you got the uh, Fisher family out of North Carolina. They were married 86 years and 9 months. Okay. 86 years. And the average lifespan is 100. So they got married when they were real teeny tiny. Okay. But they were married for 86 years. They look at each other, but that's a long time to look at somebody. Okay.
That takes power.
Exactly. now, now you see where I'm coming. You got jokes.
That's rocking a lot of babies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I give
so
it to them. They can have
yeah.
that one.
Yeah, so things change. What was then is not. It would have been abnormal for our grandparents to have have children and then not be connected. The worst thing coming up was to be called an illegitimate child. You see what I'm saying? Of course, they came from a mother and a father, but fast forward this 21st century, it's nothing for women to have children, and they don't even have to know the guy. They knew him in that time of intimacy, but things have changed, and thus the dissolution of the family. And so what happens is instead of having fathers in the home, the government and the prison system becomes the fathers of our boys, especially, and our girls too. So things have really changed. So a power couple, yes, I know. I think of power couples more for the entertainment world. That world. And they say, oh, this is a power couple. This is this. They make a lot of money. They got a lot of Jews. They all over the place here in entertainment. But the power couple is how you really stick with each other through the thick and the thin, for better or for worse, or richer or poor, or in sickness or in health. That's the power.
I think what it sounds like to me is that everybody really has their own definition and how they view a power couple, because I'm sure it's many people that are watching this that are saying, hey, I got that power couple. Let us know in the comments, if you're a part of that. The question I want to ask you is, how can individuals tap into these science like astronumerology to find out if they are a power couple? And I want to ask you if we can do a mini case study today
Sure.
on one of the people that, well, one of the couples that have been over the years considered a power couple, and they are none other than J and B, Jay Z and Beyonce. We're going to talk about them, but first, let me just let you know this has nothing to do with what's going on in their personal life or
No, no.
anything. This is just looking at the numbers, looking at the math, because that's all it is, the universal language, mathematics, to determine if we can see it in their numerology chart. But if you would, it would be nice if you share that with us today.
Okay. And in fact, I'd like to introduce two other couples before I get to the main stage of it. The
Let's
first
go.
one
I'm
being
ready.
Nick Ashford and Valerie Simpson. Now, for those who may not be familiar with this couple, they were the writing team of the Motown. During the 60s, 70s, and 80s, every song that came out of the radio, you heard in your car, radio, and whatnot, was written by this power couple. They were a power couple. When they wrote, they also sung their songs, you know what I'm saying? Ain't No Mountain High Enough, and a couple of other classics. But they wrote for things like um, the Temptations. They wrote for the Jackson Fives. They wrote for uh, Diana Ross and the Supremes. They wrote for so many celebrities, but astrologically, they were both Earth signs. See, so one of the things is to take into consideration what are the elements of the people you meet, because there has to be what is called a synergy. Why is it you can meet a person for the first time and you feel right at home with them? You feel an automatic connection. You don't even know them, but yet you feel relaxed. And yet you meet another person for the first time and you're not just feeling them. They ain't do nothing to you. They didn't say nothing to you, but it's a synergy that we give off for energy. Well, Nick Ashford was a Taurus, earth sign, and Valerie Simpson was a Virgo, an earth sign. So that makes sense. Earth sign people are very practical. They're very down to earth. They like to use a lot of common sense. You know what I'm saying? And so if you look at the numbers, he was a 4, the 4th of May. She was an 8, the 26th of August. So these were actually, so 8s and 4s are often attracted to each other, but then 8s and 4s can become very estranged from each other. And if that's the case, they should separate. But in this case, Nick Ashford and Valerie Simpson who were married in their young days and stayed together, married until his death. Okay, Nick Ash's death. So then the next couple, which shows you odd signs. So, for example, when I was in astrology, well, if you're a fire sign, you should mess with a water sign because water puts out fire, right? And vice versa. Well, if you take the power couple of Angela Bassett and her husband Courtney Vance. They've been together forever. Okay, she is a fire sign and he is a water sign. Now you say, hold on. I thought that astrologically fire and water don't mix together unless you're in the shower. Okay, but over and above that, what happens? That's what got me into the world of numerology, where I could see those exceptions to the rule. All right. And the exceptions to the rule is that you look at the date of birth. So Angela Set is born on August the 16th. 1 plus 6 is 7. Now, to a novice, that may not mean anything. Novice is a 7. So what? Well, 7 is ruled by the element of water. If you look at Courtney Vance, a Pisces, a water sign, he is born on the 12th of March. Well, 1 plus 2 is 3. They'll say, well, what does that mean? That means that the 3 is ruled by the element of fire. So his fire number is connected with her fire sign, and her water number is connected with his water sign. So this is when what they always call it, they're always exceptions to the rule. Okay. And this is one of them. So this makes sense. But the power couple that we want to talk about is Beyonce and Jay-Z. Well, first of all, there's a lot about them. So, for example, she's born on the 4th of the month. He's born on the 4th of the month. Now, the numbers represents how you connect mentally with each other, where the signs denote how you connect physically with one another, whether you feel comfortable in that space. So, in the case of Beyonce, she's a 4, and everything about her was a 4. So, when she started out with Destiny's Child, there were 4 members. When they disbanded, it was on the 22nd of the month. 2 plus 2 is 4. When she won her first ASCAP award, it was also on the 22nd. 2 plus 2 is 4, and she was age 22 at the time. And then you'll find things like on Jay-Z's side. He's born on the 4th of December, which makes him a. So here's the point where they said, well, she's Earth, he's a Sagittarius, and which is fire. So Earth and fire. So don't forget, other than using water to put out fire, you next thing you do is dirt to smother fire. But in the case of their numbers, they work very, very well together. They have everything. So, for example, he has Club 44 here in New York. Um, they, and in fact, when they married, talking about the marriage, right? They met and dated in 2002. Well, that may not mean anything until you see that 2 plus 0 plus 0 plus 2 is 4. Then they got engaged in the 4th month of April. And in fact, before they bought their rings, they actually had the numerical Roman numeral 4 tattooed on their finger. Did you know that? Not only that, but when they did get married, they got married on April the 4th of 2008. So it may not mean anything, but if you understand her numbers, because see, we all have key numbers. Every couple, every planet, everyone on the planet, at least human beings, got their key numbers. Her numbers were the 4, 1, and 5. His numbers are the 4, 1, and 3. Well, if they look at when they married, it was in 2008. Well, 2 plus 0 plus 0 plus 8 equals 10. Even their first daughter, Blue Ivory, was born on January the 7th of 2012. Well, that may not mean anything until you understand that when you add the month, the day, and the year of their first child born, it adds up to the number 4, which is their number. Then if you look at the twins that they had, which is Rumi, Rumi, and Sir, Sir, they happen to have been born on the 13th of June. Okay. And then speaking of the 4 with Beyonce in that sense, putting a lot of emphasis on her at this point, she just won the Grammy Award on Sunday, okay, which was the 4th day of the month, which is her number, and it was on a Sunday, and it happened to have been the 67th Grammy Award, where she won the most prize honor in the Grammys, which is Album of the Year, called Cowboy Carter. Well, 6 plus 7 is 13, and 1 plus 3 is 4. So you find these things, and so yes, so you see it in power couple, but you see it in the average couple too. And so it's just how you look for it. But because they are a power couple in the sense, fast forward to the 21st century, where you got a lot of spotlight on them, where that's the whole energy, that would explain some of the things they have. But I don't care. We all have um, our numbers that guide us and connect us. Some have synergies. Now people marry for all kind of different reasons. Are they 6 feet tall? Do they have a six-figure salary? Or do they have a six of this and a six of that? That seems the magic number over the last couple of years. Or another thing is now, what do you bring to the table? But see, in the days of our parents and their parents and parents, it wasn't about that kind of conversation. It was about unifying as a unit, developing themselves as a family. Because this couple that I'm going to be talking about in my relationship class, coming up in the Power Series, the relationship cycle, he married when he was 17 and she was 13. And yet he wound up being 102 years old. She wound up being 89 years old. They've been married 84 years. Again, if a person sticks around for 84 days, we ain't talking about 84 months, 84 weeks, much less 84 years. And it seems to be a kind of like a not, well, stick with it. It's like as soon as I get, now people get bored. Really? You mean there's nothing to do? It seems that people are now depending upon this person doesn't make me happy. When happiness is found within yourself, because you can run from people, but you can't run from yourself. And that's one of the things I'm going to be teaching in the relationship course. The best relationship to have is with oneself, because the more you have a better relationship with yourself, the more you're in a better position to really have a relationship with anybody you come into. And see, it's not just boyfriend, girlfriend. It's like your neighbor. It's like brothers and sisters. It's like aunts and uncles. It's like our children, our co-workers. And, it speaks on a whole lot of levels. But in the world of marriages, it's so interesting because when people do get married, for example, you have this actress Zaza Gabor. She was famous in the day of my parents. She married 9 times. Okay, they say, "Wow, that's a whole lot, right?" And then you have Lana Turner, famous actress of her time. She was married 8 times. You have Larry King. He was married 8 times. You have Elizabeth Taylor. She was married 7 times. But let me tell you, that's nothing. There's a woman named Linda Wolf that was married 21 times. She married a convict. She married a plumber. Okay. She married a homeless guy. She married a musician. Okay. Now, you think that tops the cake? Then, this ain't trying to start no stuff. Then there was Glenn Wolf. He married 31 times, 29 different women. Some of them were thieves. Some of them were junkies. Some of them were farm girls. He didn't leave nothing off the checklist. Okay. And of the 29 women he married, 3 of them he divorced and married 3 times. Okay. Yet when he died alone on 1997 at a senior citizen center, he died by himself. Nobody came and claimed him after all those women. The only thing was that Linda Wolf met Glenn Wolf and they married in 1996. It was more of a publicity stunt. So here it is, the most married woman married to the most married man. you know. Then you got another couple, Linda and David Blair. They were married 30 years, but they renewed their vows 66 times. You know, so it's people are something else. That's all I'm saying. People are something else, and
Yeah.
so and the shortest was 20 minutes. That was in 1919 with this famous man named Island. His name was Rudolph Valentino. All the women were swooning about him. Well, he married this actress, Jean Acker. Well, on the night they married, they got into something. She closed the room to the wedding room, and she locked the door. And he knocked on the door for about 20 minutes. She didn't open the door, and he left. That was it. That was 20 minutes. That was one of the shortest Hollywood marriages. You know what I'm saying? So people can get touchy, and then there are people who really understand. So in the case I'm going to be talking about the couple, I'm going to be showing their images too of Cleotis and Wilder Whiteside from Arkansas. They said that God kept them together. They didn't talk about no numbers. They didn't talk about no zodiac signs. They didn't talk about no dating app. They didn't talk about the internet. This is when they really unified as a unit and was married. Now, I know For anybody who's been married or in a long-term relationship, there are going to be times when people work each other's nerves. I work your nerves, you work my nerves. Don't mean to. It's just, I guess, part of the ups and downs of life. You know what I'm saying? But
Can
but
you see those? Can you like predict those, or can you forecast those situations where a couple may come to you and you can do their chart and find out it may be some it may be some challenges in this relationship. Can you tell that through their numbers?
and I explain it to them too. I do have for me literally an unblemished record in the sense of all the people I've that approach me about getting married. Every one of them still to this day is married. Okay. There's only one couple that's not married, and that's because their wife died of an illness. And then he remarried. But over and above that, they all still together. But I explain it this way. And the reason for me is I like reading couples to their face. In other words, I'll tell while I'm talking to the guy, she's listening. When I'm talking to her, he's listening. So this way it can't be said, see, honey, I told you so. Okay? Because I'm a complete stranger. So when I set the wedding around it, there's a formula I use, which you'll have to wait until Tuesday to find out. But they are together. What do you do if the numbers don't match, if the signs don't match? These are some of the things I'm going to be talking about. And then from there, and having children and being parents, and we got to be good stewards in relationships. That's the whole thing now. It's okay. I don't like you, and you need to go back to your mother. Okay, because you're not having a good day. And I tried to explain to people the sun don't come out every day, Miss Kimberly. It just doesn't. There are going to be sunny days. There are going to be cloudy days, stormy days, overcast days. There are going to be days when it's real warm, days when it's real cold, days we're not feeling each other. But what do you do? That's what I'm saying. So for the Henry and for the excuse me, the Herbert and Samaya Fisher, who were married 86 years, don't think they didn't get on each other's nerves at some point. For the couple that I'm going to be talking about, the white sides, don't think they didn't get on each other's nerves too. But when you got God, and see, in every case of these people who were married for a long, long time, they gave credit to the Most High. Not that they smelled good, not that they were tall, not that they were whatever the case is, but it was about those things. So they have been long term marriages, like the couple of Laura and David Blair. They've married 30 years and they renewed their vows 66 times. They was really feeling it. Okay. That's like twice a month. I mean, twice a year. Okay,
Do
honey.
you think she put on a different perfume every time?
Well, knowing you women, yeah, I don't very, y'all don't like to wear the same thing. So I would say she had 66 outfits. Okay, John. I mean, David, he probably had the same old slacks and jacket and a lady.
Maybe that was her excuse to get a new outfit.
Well,
If she's smart.
it worked because they pulled it off 66 times. Okay, so you have these things. So some people have to marry till they get it right. This guy, Glenn Wolf, and the woman he stayed married to in Glenn Wolf's case was his 28th wife. That's the one he stayed with the longest. He had in the 31 marriages of the 29 women and 3 breakups and remarrying. He married some for a couple of days, some for a couple of months, and some for a couple of weeks. That's how he pulled it off. Okay, that's how he pulled it off. And what would be? I'd love to look at his hands. I love to look at the marriage lines. He must have, because along the base of your lines right there, like then the base of the line right there, are your marriage line. He must have had lines all up and down there, boy. You know what I'm saying? That would have been confusing. I just said, you know what, Mister, Mister Wolf, you got a lot of relationships to get to. And then the fact that he would marry the woman who was married 21 times, so she broke the record. Then there's a person in the Middle East that got 616 wives. What do you do with all them women? I don't know. Who do you pick? Where do
That's
you pick
that's a
them?
good question.
How do listen, to me, making one woman is a full-time job. Okay. And then you got those. I gotta be honest. I had a client. He had two separate families. How he did it, I don't know. The same key to the family one house matched the same key to the second house. So how you I'm telling you, you got people that's got all kinds of things going on in relationships. So this is just something I just threw out here just as a part of my research. But we're always in a relationship, and that's what I'm going to explain in the relationship cycle coming up real soon. That people can join. I wish they joined because it's going to give them time to examine their relationships and who they get along well with. Yes, it's about a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. It is also relationships on all levels. Why can one not get along with their mother? One can't get along with their father. This, that, and other. Why one can't get along with their children or their neighbors or their coworkers or their boss. There are all kinds of levels that we go on in relationships, and that's what I'm going to explain. So I'm asking people to resolve who you're best working with, how your relationship, how to find your soulmate. Okay, all of that I will explain to them. It's simple, but like anything, it's like when you're trying to discover something, it's the hardest. But once you discover it, it's like that's no big deal. You know, it's like somebody who know how to master the inner workings of a computer is real simple. For me, it would drive me bonkers, because that's not my forte. But my thing in this power series, the power of relationship, is the power of your relationship. But the key is not to disappoint people. It's about starting with knowing yourself first. Because my theory is the more you know yourself better, the more you're able to interact with other people that come into your space on whatever level, whether it's intimate, whether it's personal, whether it's family, whether it's neighborly, whether it's business, etc. So it's going to be fascinating.
I know it is. And I think perhaps one of the most important things that I get from astronumerology is the ability to kind of know how to approach relationships with different people, because it's like when you read a person's number, you automatically know what to expect from that person, and you know how the two of you have to interact to make the relationship work. And like you said, it's not just about, a love relationship or a passionate relationship like that. It's
Hmm.
about any type of relationship. It's relationships in your business, in your school, with your children, every relationship that you have. So it's very important to know about how you can determine how to deal with the people that are closest to you.
And speaking of that, why is it that you go to one store versus another store? Why is it one person will go out of their way to a laundromat versus another laundromat? Why is it that, you know what I'm saying? It may not make it, because I ain't feeling you. I ain't spending my money with you, okay? I'd rather go over here. And if we can't explain it, there's just something like, I don't like that store. I like this store. You know what I'm saying? I don't like this particular department store. I don't like that particular department store. It's a synergy that we have on all levels. We just don't understand it. And once you do, you almost kind of laugh at yourself. And you can see the humor in life, and you can say, okay, this is why I don't. For example, you'll go to a store, and the store you like, it's got your address and match your number. There's a store I used to go to all the time when I was in the days of playing lottery, and it added to my number for 7. I said, "Oh, I see now. I like this store." You know what I'm saying? So but we're not taught how to be aware, how to have a consciousness of how we do that. That's what I'm going to teach in the relationship class.
You
Really,
know, it's so strange that you said that, because one of the other things that I pay attention to also is like music and maybe even television sometimes. Like there are certain people or entertainers that I gravitate towards. And then when I get deep into who they are, I'm like, oh, no wonder they have my numbers.
that's exactly right. But because we are not metaphysically taught or trained like that, we don't know. We all have an energy. We all have an aura, a certain feel that we have that we can feel. Well, I want to sit more next to this person. I want to sit next to that person, and the person could be fine. You know, this is it's fascinating, and that's what I'm going to explain in the relationship class.
You know, it's true too. And maybe it's just me thinking about it, but here on Astro-Numerology Reveal, a lot of Leos and fours pop in, even more so than some of the other signs, but mostly. And I mean, I found so many people that have the same birthday. And I'm like, wow. When I thought about it, they're being attracted by the numbers. Oh, so that's how we
Yeah, it's
attract
just a
people.
synergy. A
Yeah.
synergy. You feel it. It's a frequency as we have it. Call it what you will. The thing is, these frequencies can't be seen, but the person will say, "What do you mean?" Well, let's say you listen to your favorite TV show or radio program. Well, they all have call letters and frequency numbers. Here in New York, it's WBLS, uh, e- uh, um, WBLS 107.5. Then there's WWRL 1190. Well, if I want to listen to WWRL here in New York, I got to tune into 1190 if I want to hear it. But if I want to hear FM station 107.5 WBLS, I've got to turn in. So each number, every single radio station, every single TV station has a call number. So they'll say WKYS radio 97.3. Everywhere you go. I mean, but we can't see the frequencies. We can't see them or touch them. But yet they have machines that can pick up these signals, which is why a person will prefer one program over another program. Why another person will go to one store versus another store. You know what I'm saying? So, but once you become conscious, and all you got to do is ask yourself, what's my favorite place to always go spend my money? Almost always, it's got one of your numbers, or it matches the number to your zodiac sign. What was the place I can't stand that place? I don't care what they say. I don't care if they offer free burgers. I ain't going in there. Okay.
No, it's some entertainers that I felt that way about too. Like I just can't get with them.
Nothing
And then when
personal.
I see their numbers, and I'm like, okay, I see why.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But after all that has been said, what would you say? Can astronumerology reveal whether a couple is going to be a power couple or not?
Yes. And there are times I read couples where I read them and I say, you know what? Really, y'all should run to the nearest exit. I'm serious. And I'm
You
very
told
honest.
someone that?
Well, not the nearest exit. I told them this way. If they would have asked me, I mean, you got to be classy with this so you don't get insulted, you don't get hit, you don't get paid. Okay. So, my whole thing is if a person asks me, would this be a relationship made in heaven? I'm honest with them. I would say no. There is one exception, as I said, the exception to the rule. If you're willing to work through it. But if you're not willing to work through it, then save yourself a lot of wear, tear, time, emotions, all those kind of things, and pick somebody else that's more in alignment with your chemistry. Why did you go to a place to visit? As soon as you visit, you ready to leave. Then you go to another place and you wish you could stay longer, man. Like this was great. I just should have did here for 2 weeks rather than 1 week, because each location has a name and a frequency. New York City is ruled by the sign of Leo, so all Leos and Aquarians and Aries, if they come to this town, are likely to do very well because this is a Leo city. So cities and countries and nations have their own energy, their own birthdays. And this is what I'm going to be teaching in the Power Series, but it's going to be not about cities and nations and countries. Y'all can figure that out or buy my best-selling book, Numbers in You, a Numerology Guide for Everyday Living. But it's about the relationships we have on a lot of levels. And yes, I'll be putting emphasis on the more intimate, romantic side, the neighborly side, the family side. But the main thing is putting a relationship on you, because you can run from everybody, but you can't run from yourself. And once you know that, that's half your battle. So, and you can say to yourself, that's why I'm feeling you, and that's why I'm never feeling you. At least you're being honest.
That is true. And what we could use is a little more honesty, and maybe these relationships will go better. But I
Yeah.
want to say I agree with you. Astronumerology can reveal the relationships, and some of the stuff you said reveals some things about everyday living for me. So I'm going to be digging down into the addresses of stores that I like to visit to see if there's a
You
connect.
would be amazed that the store
Yeah.
either matches the number to your zodiac sign or preferably the date of birth mostly, which is why I like to go to this store versus another store. I live here in Harlem. They got stores all over the place. There are only certain stores I like to go into, and I notice most of the stores that are my preference has my number. You know what I'm saying? And it's not planned that way. And so for those that don't have that consciousness, ask yourself, what place you going all the time that you just like, regardless? And what place you'll never go into? More than likely, there's a better than average or higher than average chance that the place you go into is in alignment with your date of birth primarily or your zodiac sign. But we're not taught this. These are some of the things I've observed in all my years of doing these things. It's fascinating, really, really fascinating.
It
And
is
that's what I
fascinating.
in the Power Series and Relationship. I hope to make it a very fascinating experience so people can learn as they move forward in life with relationships, whether it's be in personal, business, intimate, whatever the case is, even especially with your children. That's because people have falling out with their parents, people have falling out with their children. You know what I'm saying? It's like the experience I had in DC. I read a client. He had always had problems with his father, but his father was a nine and he was a number two. And I explained that numbers have a synchronicity with each other and a polarity with each other. And once he understood that, for the first time, he really understood his dad. And it made a world of difference to him. So knowledge is power. So even, and I mean, the dad didn't know he was going to have a number two son, and the number two son didn't know his dad was going to be a nine. But so be it. Okay, so what do you do? So, for example, one of the opposition number to the number two is the number eight. Well, Michael Jackson's father, Joe Jackson, was born on the 26th of July, a Leo, eight. And he was born under Virgo on August the 29th. So, an eight and two. So, when you understand these things, that's all I'm trying to tell you. That's the whole purpose of my relationship class that's coming up. I think everybody should come. Y'all should really come.
Make sure you all join us at the Power Series. This is going to be the very second one. We're going to have it February. It's going to be February the 11th at 7
Mhm.
p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this time, Lloyd will be talking about your relationships. So make sure that you attend the class. I personally think it's best to join the class because they get
Yep,
to
yep.
ask the questions that they want
And
or
believe me, I love answering questions. I love answering questions because my whole thing is to add clarity to things that are mystified. Why is it, especially with women, why is it some women attract younger men? Why some attract much older men? I'll explain all these things because there's a double standard. I could date a much younger woman. I'm just being a guy. But you date a guy that's 9 months, year younger. We want to talk bad about you. But so it's like demystifying some of these things that cause these kind of like frictions or misunderstandings in relationships. So
yeah.
it's going to be very fascinating. And so anybody that's got questions, I'm going to try to answer it as best I can in a very logical, intelligent manner. And then a person can go from there. But I'm very, very honest. When a person consults me and spend their hard-earned money and spend their valuable time, I'm straight up honest. That's the only way I can be.
You're the bad guy's fear. Yeah,
But I do it in a nice way. You know what I'm saying, Miss Kimberly?
yeah,
I
we
do it in a
know.
nice way. So I don't
Well,
say
thank
run. There's this thing about Arnold Schwarzenegger. This film, he said, run to the chopper. No, I ain't gonna do it like that. I'll just say, if you were to ask me, would this be a relationship made in heaven? I'm going to be very honest. Some have it has excellent possibilities. Some have next to none. But it can't be said when they go forward with it. Well, straight, how come you didn't say something? I did. And but it's up to the person. When a person's in love and they emotionally involved, all common sense goes out the window. That I found. So that's how it goes too. So there's a lot of aspects to relationships. So it's going to be a fun class. All you got to do is show up. Show up in the place. Let me get in your business. You'll be fine.
It is going to be fun. I know it is. Thank you so much for coming to tell us a little bit more about relationships in this relationship month so far. Please come out to join us on Tuesday, the 11th, if you can.
And Ms. Kimberly, thank you very, very much for having me on. I hope this sets some interesting, and especially about, so if a person marries more than one or two times, don't feel guilty. Just think about Linda Wolf and Glenn Wolf, and you'll feel much better about yourself, okay? Because between those two, just do the math. One was married 31 times, the other was married 23 times. That's 54 times just between those two.
I
So
get
there's nothing to
tired
feel bad
just
about.
thinking, I'm getting tired just thinking about that number of people.
And that's just two people, okay? They were busy. And you know what it tells me too? They were very indecisive.
Probably fives.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I said, boy, I'd love to get a hold of their birthdays. I'm still gonna
A,
find out.
a Scorpio five.
Could be, could be, could be. Because five is the number. See, in numerology, five is the number that deals with multiple relationships. They're multifaceted, multi-talented, multi-dimensional, and so they could be married in multiple relationships. And this goes for the woman. Woman could be married. There's a guy that says, "Yes, I know you're married, but can I still take you out anyway?" No need shouldn't be asking that question, or whatever the case is. So it's very interesting. Or whether you have a lot of fives in your name, you know what I'm saying? Like the name Kenny is a lot of fives. Okay, um, so it all depends. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot to it. It's a lot to it. But I'm going to try to synthesize in the time I have on relationships. But I'm there to answer all of your questions. Everybody, I'm sure, in who will visit that workshop will have a relationship. They've been in a relationship, maybe it didn't work out, maybe the one they wanted couldn't match up. There's a whole lot of things. So my whole thing is to try to clear the air so as they move forward. But the first thing they teach you is how to learn yourself first. Because you can't move forward if you don't love yourself. And that's where it starts at. And you can't say, oh honey, I'm bored. And as if my role is to make you happy all the time. You got to be happy within yourself. It's about taking responsibilities. And that's a part of the growing up of knowing yourself. You know, if I make a mistake and I made some boo boos on my shows, and I'm the first one to admit it, I don't try to fake it. I don't try to pretend. If you know in the politics, this person is blaming the past administration. The past administration is blaming the president. No one wants to take responsibility. But that is a mark of maturity when you can, because nobody's perfect. You're telling me everybody's walking on water? I'd like to know what they drinking or what they smoking or whatever the case is. Anyway, that's enough for that.
Thank you so much for your wisdom and knowledge and
You're
sharing
welcome.
it with us.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll see you on Tuesday.
See you on Tuesday. I look forward to it. Have your questions ready. Have a pen and paper to take some notes. It's going to be fun. And I'm going to be talking about Cleophas and Awilda Whiteside, who were married for 84 years. He passed away last year. He passed away on December the 23rd of 2024. She's still living. But when they celebrate their 84th birthday, he was 102 years old and she was 98 years old. When they married, he was 17 and she was 13. There's that 8-4 combination again. See? So it's just fascinating. It's very, very fascinating. Thank you, Miss Kimberly.
You're welcome.